welcome to this special broadcast on India's new bioeconomy policy. India's cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, recently approved the BioE3 policy for India's biotechnology sector. BioE3 stands for Biotechnology for Economy, Environment and Employment. This means that the policy has a three-pronged focus of boosting the economy, the environment and employment. The overarching emphasis of this policy, to be spearheaded by India's Department of Biotechnology, is fostering high-performance biomanufacturing. So what is a bioeconomy, you might ask? Bioeconomy is a part of the economy that uses renewable biological resources to produce goods, services and energy. These resources include animals, plants, microorganisms and derived biomass and organic waste. Bioeconomy also uses biotechnology, science, technology and innovation to provide information and processes to all economic sectors. Bioeconomy aims to expand a sustainable and renewable circular economy and society by reducing waste. So India's new bioeconomy policy aims to enable that by helping build a resilient biomanufacturing ecosystem in India in the biotechnology sphere, so that biomanufacturing stands out as a pillar of India's Make in India initiative and contributes to the vision of a developed Bharat by 2047. So what do stakeholders in the biotechnology space think about this new policy? Let's explore that over the next 30 minutes. I'm Munmun Bhattacharya, and joining me is an esteemed panel of guests. Joining me in the studio is Dr. Ramesh V. Sonti. He is Director of ICGEB in New Delhi. ICGEB stands for International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. It is a center of excellence for research, training and technology transfer to industry to promote sustainable global development. Dr. P.M. Murli, President, Council of Presidents, ABLE, Bengaluru, is with us. ABLE stands for Association for Biotechnology-Led Enterprises. It is a not-for-profit pan-India forum that represents the Indian biotechnology sector. Dr. Sharmila Bapat, Director, NCCS Pune, is also joining us. Namaskar, ma'am. NCCS stands for National Center for Cell Science. It facilitates cell biology research in India. And Dr. Anand Suresh Deshpande, Founder, Chairman and MD, Persistent Systems Maharashtra, is joining us from Hanoi in Vietnam. Persistent is a digital engineering and enterprise modernization company, and he will tell us if this policy can make India's biotechnology sector soar like India's information technology sector has. So such a pleasure to welcome all of you to this special broadcast. I'll begin with you, Dr. Sonti. For starters, tell us, why was this policy needed in the first place? What were the issues in India's biotechnology space that needed to be addressed? And does this policy really achieve that objective of addressing the shortfalls?
Thank you for inviting me to the show. The question that we should turn around the question and think of how we need to change the economy, Indian economy, because we are basically an economy that's based on using chemical-based industry with inputs that are not renewable and outputs that are not recyclable. So the whole world needs to move to an economy that is renewable and recyclable, and this policy is a very much needed push to set up the path that the country is going to take over the next 20 years or 25 years in this particular area.
Okay. If Dr. Deshpande is with us, Dr. Deshpande, you are from the IT sector, and we are talking about the biotechnology sector here, but perhaps biotechnology sector today is at a stage where the IT sector was 3 decades back. So do you see any similarities there, and do you see this sector soaring to the heights in the near future, or say by 2030, where the IT sector stands today?
Yes, thanks for inviting me. When I started Persistent in 1990, the state of affairs for software and IT were very similar to what I see in the biotechnology area. And there were some decisions made by the government, specifically around software technology park schemes and other schemes that really helped in getting a business. When IT at that point in 1990 was about $30 million in terms of the size of the industry. In last year, we did about $350 billion. So we have seen an amazing exponential growth for the IT industry. I think biotechnology, from the science that has changed in the last 10 to 15 years, the kind of exponential growth in science and technology that we have seen globally, I think there is a similar opportunity where biotechnology will have an impact in all aspects of our food, water, energy, and everywhere else. And I think this policy would give an opportunity for employment and mainly for entrepreneurship that will allow the biotechnology industry to be very similar to the IT industry that I've been part of and have seen in the last 35 years that I've been part of this. So I'm very excited by what I see, and this is a good first step. There's a lot to be done, but all good things start with a good first step.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's take that point further. Dr. Murli is with us as well. Dr. Murli, the first question that I asked Dr. Sonti is the question that I would want to ask you as well. Why was this policy needed in the first place? Also, what are the various verticals that will be covered in the policy? What are the various bio-based products that we are looking at under this particular policy?
First of all, thanks for inviting. And let me tell you, this is the most exciting period we are in. I mean, there's no doubt about it, especially if you're talking about biotechnology. I think when you're looking at renewable technology and the growth that India is charting out, so obviously it needs to follow technologies that are going to be absolutely safe to use, environmental friendly, and also it should be renewable. Only then we are going to be moving to the next stage. The most important thing that this policy has done, and I'm talking with my industry hat on, is that the government is signaling very, very clearly to everybody around the globe that India is looking at this sector very, very seriously. Now, this is a message that needs to go out loud and clear, because a lot of the industries will have to shape up their future growth plan in India based on how the government looks at such sectors. So I think I would first like to begin by congratulating the government led by the Prime Minister that this is really one of the finest things that has happened. Now let me come to one question that you asked. You will have to remember that we are extremely dependent on the chemicals from the petrochemical industry, and that's what Dr. Sonti was also alluding to. And I can give you a very simple example. The vanillin that we have in our bakery, we have in our drink, we have in our ice creams, none of us know that almost 90% of it is from petrochemical sources. So if you really want to do something about it and build something in the biomanufacturing space, then you need to engineer a lot of organisms to ferment it out and go. Now, we will also have to remember that the fermentation capacity of this entire world today stands at about 50 million liters. And in 20 years' time, if this is the aspiration that we carry, we need to move it up several notches up to about 1 billion liters. Now, India is thus exactly arriving at that place so that it can be a global leader and can compete with the rest of the countries in the world. So that's where we are with this policy.
Let me take this further with Dr. Bapat. Dr. Bapat, you are associated with an organization that's done so much research into the sphere of biomanufacturing. Are we looking at a phenomenal change under this policy in biomanufacturing in India? Because there's so much focus on innovative indigenous research and development and integration of technology. We are also talking here about artificial intelligence hubs, which means that the biomanufacturing hubs will be integrated with advanced technologies such as AI, to name a few.
Yes, absolutely. Let me first thank you for having me on this panel. We as biotechnology researchers are immensely enthused by the announcement of this BioE3 policy, and we are looking at it as a forward-looking policy which will be a commitment to foster and advance us to a future where there is more sustainable, innovative and responsiveness to global challenges. The way we are looking at it is that it will set up a pipeline and empower Indian institutions, our universities, startups, as well as the industries by setting up a pipeline which will intensify research and innovation. It will boost the domestic biomanufacturing capabilities. It will also accelerate the transition to biomanufacturing, setting up of several biomanufacturing hubs, biofoundries and bioAIs. More importantly, as researchers, we know that India has a huge source of a highly skilled workforce in biotechnology that we often lose to bring to other countries. And I think it will be a facilitation for nurturing this cohort of a highly skilled workforce that we consistently develop in India. Now you mentioned about biomanufacturing. What is being visualized in this particular policy is the establishment of cross-cutting enablers. So what does this mean? You know, as a cell and molecular biologist, we actually work to generate a lot of data that transits across, say, the genomics to the transcriptomics, the proteomics, the metabolomics. So now what will be done is that one would actually start looking at a cross interdisciplinary situation platforms wherein you can also integrate several of the computerized advances wherein you can have AI and artificial intelligence as well as machine learning enabled technologies to look at this particular data, to organize it, to develop it and interpret it to the benefit of mankind. For example, let me talk of, say, cancer biology. Now, all of us know that when cancer advances, it becomes difficult to treat a patient. Can you imagine a future wherein you can actually detect a cancer cell as soon as it gets transformed? What do I mean by transformed? You know, cancer develops from some of our normal cells which start behaving in a different way and they start multiplying and generate a tumor. Now, what if it were possible to detect a tumor even before it grows beyond a certain size, wherein it can be actually identified and thrown out? This is something that we are looking at in terms of precision medicine, wherein we can integrate AI and ML for detection. Apart from that, biomanufacturing actually spans through 6 major verticals. You can have it in bio-based chemicals and enzymes. You can have it in functional foods and smart proteins. You'll have it in precision biotherapeutics, an example of which I gave. You can have it in climate-resistant, resilient agriculture.
Yes.
And so on and so forth.
Yes, there's carbon capture, the futuristic marine and space research. So a lot of exciting vistas in terms of research and biomanufacturing going forward. So a lot of focus on bio-based products manufacturing instead of using chemicals and thus harming the environment. That is an extremely important takeaway really from this policy. But Dr. Deshpande, since Dr. Bapat was talking about the integration of AI with biomanufacturing hubs, is that an exciting proposition to somebody like you who's representing the IT sector here? What really can that integration of, say, AI with biomanufacturing hubs could mean?
I think, as Sharmila already mentioned, biology of the future is very different from the biology of the past. I think it has become far more interdisciplinary. It has a lot of requirements from data and analytics and machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I think the fact that the IT industry is well developed in India is an advantage for us in the bioeconomy as well. And I'm really looking forward to collaborating and bringing the IT people that we work with to look at biology problems, because I think the future in terms of the opportunity and exponential growth that is possible in the biology and bioeconomy is amazing. And I think it'll require people of all kinds. And we have a good base of IT from the last 30 years that we have built IT in India. And I think IT can play a huge role in the future of biology, both in terms of manufacturing new materials, identifying new materials, looking at data sets, combining data from different sources so that we can invent new materials in the future.
Okay.
So I'm very excited about this opportunity of this collaboration between the technology industry and the biology industry as such.
So there is going to be collaboration going forward from what is understandable from the policy between IT prowess as well as biotechnology space. Well, Dr. Sonti, there are two streams out of the 6 verticals that Dr. Bapat pointed out. One is carbon capture and the second one is climate resilient agriculture. What changes for these two particularly under the new policy?
See, many of our industries are emitting a lot of carbon dioxide into the air. These are our steel industry, the power industry, the cement industry, and all of that CO2 is actually leading to global warming. So using this policy aims to encourage research on microorganisms that will actually capture this waste carbon dioxide that is almost like a poison in our atmosphere, convert it into biomass that can be used to make biofuel, it can be used to make value-added chemicals. So there are a lot of, from waste you are actually making wealth. So there's tremendous possibilities that the new biology fused with artificial intelligence and big data can actually help make progress in this area. In climate resilient agriculture, as you may have seen, in a single season, we are getting a drought, we are getting floods, we are getting heat, high temperatures. So how do you make crops that are resilient to multiple stresses? We have tremendous amount of information about the genes, the kind of changes that happen inside plant cells. And using the technology that Dr. Deshpande was saying, using big data analysis, artificial intelligence, you can now breed crops much faster, in a much better manner, so that they are more resilient to all of these climatic changes that we are faced with.
And also make food for astronauts.
That's right. That's also true, actually.
Which will be used for the Gaganyaan mission as well going forward.
So moving forward, as humans start exploring further and further into the realms of space, they will need to make their own food. So we need to make organisms, microorganisms that will grow in the confined locations in space with the limitations in terms of the resources that are available there. Engineer these using these kinds of techniques that are being enabled here to make food for our astronauts.
And also biosensors to check their health parameters. So a lot of exciting fields within the biotechnology space that is going to get a boost. Well, Dr. Murli, coming to you now on what really this policy means in terms of giving a boost to the skilling and employment ecosystem in the country and thus giving a boost to Make in India.
Well, I think that's one of the key attributes of this. I mean, this is where I like the policy there, because every single component that was described here has an allied factor to it, that it's going to employ several graduates and science graduates particularly who are going to be associated with that. And as you know that this industry is very interesting. It's got direct employment and then it has got indirect employment along with it. So which means even if you take a factor of 1:4, you're talking about several lakhs of people getting employed in the next few years when this policy actually starts kicking in and going to the next stage. The other important point that I want to stress is this is a transformative policy, obviously, because we are trying to move away from petrochemicals to renewable chemicals. But the key component here, which I think most of the people in this panel know, is that there is a tremendous emphasis on translation, which means that all the lab to, let's say, land or lab to the huge fermenters that I am sitting in front of, all these things are going to employ new sets of people and new skills that will also come in. So hitherto, India may not have had all those skills, but you're going to empower a set of youth who are going to come in and look up at these new challenges that are coming up. So I am very, very clear that it is an ecosystem that the policy is trying to build. So there are several plug-and-play components into this, which the other panelists have spoken. I see it as a whole, where I see that this is going to be a very transformative policy, and it will have all the components that go with it, including environment.
Yes, Dr. Bapat, are you excited about the likely impact this policy is going to have on the employment scenario, particularly in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities of the country where biomanufacturing hubs are proposed to be set up, also giving a boost to the local economy with the use of biomass from those localized areas?
Yes, absolutely, because there are two levels to this. Actually, when you think of the employment that will be generated through the development of these biomanufacturing hubs and the biomanufacturing hub development itself. So these are two different levels at which I think it will be an immense advantage, and it will leverage all the existing resources that are already established, and yet keep a forward-looking approach wherein we can integrate newer technologies into this development.
Yes. Dr. Murli and also Dr. Sonti, one common question to the two of you: how do you look at the focus on encouraging industry within this policy to adopt green manufacturing? Dr. Sonti, first.
See, the world has reached a stage where we have polluted our oceans, contaminated our air, our food is also mixed with noxious chemicals. So there is no option but to actually take it forward. Now there has been a big gap in our country between what happens inside a lab and what is actually getting translated into industry. And this policy has set in place a series of measures that will enable the transfer of technologies from the lab to the land by initiating these, by promoting biomanufacturing hubs that can actually take the technology forward.
Dr. Murli, the same question to you. How do you look at what Dr. Sonti has been saying? Do you agree?
Well, I do agree, and I also look at technology. I'm a technology man, so the whole industry is technology-led. So you'll have to remember there are going to be some more exciting things. See, India is growing at a very rapid pace, when the rest of the so-called emerged worlds have already done what they should be doing. And so whatever climate changes that we are facing, whether we like it or not, we have to blame somebody, right? But it is at this cusp that India has now emerged, and it has to grow. Now there's going to be a lot of focus on India on how it is going to grow without making any of the mistakes that some of the emerging countries have already done, which has led to where we are today. So believe me, there are going to be transformative technologies that are going to come from biotechnology. For example, we are talking about carbon, all right. All the time we are saying ozone is depleting, that is going, this is going. So that's one way of looking at it. The other way is bucket technology. So you're going to have direct carbon capture. You're going to have direct nitrogen capture. You're going to have a lot of sea farms that are going to be there. So not just this, there's going to be a whole new technologies in the next 40, 50 years that's going to be so environmentally, good to use. They will be also very good at bringing down some of the yields that we have already created. So India will be going with technology slightly differently from the other, emerged economies.
Okay.
And this policy is going to be a facilitator.
Absolutely. Very quickly, if I could take closing comments from all of you. Ms. Bapat, coming to you first, where do you see India in the biotechnology sphere by 2030 and later by 2047?
Well, by 2047, I would definitely see a change in the type of manufacturing practices wherein cells will be visualized as factories producing a large amount of the currently produced chemicals as well as enzymes, also the high precision biotherapeutics, and so on and so forth. And I think that will be a transformative change that will also mitigate the challenges of climate change.
Dr. Sonti?
I think India is really very well positioned to lead this transition from a chemical-based industry to a biology-based industry. And I think we are not too far behind the rest of the world. We have all the skills. We have the resources in terms of biological resources. What this policy does is lays down a path by which we can lead towards 2047, have a Viksit Bharat that's very green and sustainable.
And let me ask Dr. Deshpande. Dr. Deshpande, since you've been comparing the IT sector's progress to the potential progress that biotechnology space is expected to make by 2047, where do you see India in the biotech space?
No, I also see an equivalent or an opportunity for the biospace, and I think the bioeconomy policy right now will encourage entrepreneurs and investors to invest in this area. I think when you get a policy like this, it's the ecosystem that starts to play along, and that is what we are looking forward to. It's not just one thing, it's a combination of many things, and I'm really excited about where we are and about this policy right now.
Closing comments to you, Dr. Murli.
Well, I think, I hope you understand this word. We will be a very quiet India, what you said. So we have all heard about quit India, but quiet India is something that I would like to emphasize. So what I mean by quiet India is all the technologies that are going to come in, the quantum, the way we are going to compute, the energy sources, the manufacturing, everything is going to be driven by this prefix called bio. And you're going to have all these little organisms which doesn't make much of a noise to really care for us and bring about all the changes that we are looking at. And remember, our 2047 energy requirements is going to be so high, unless and otherwise we have these transformative technologies coming in. There's no way we are going to be looking at energy self-sufficiency in 2047. So we will be moving towards a very quiet India with these bugs doing all the heavy lifting for us.
Yes, absolutely. A quiet India, but also a very, very self-sufficient India. Well, we leave it at that. Dr. Ramesh Sonti, Dr. P.M. Murli, Dr. Sharmila Bapat and Dr. Anand Deshpande. Such a pleasure to have the four of you on this special broadcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So at the end, we will conclude by saying that this is the best time to invest in the industrialization of biology to promote sustainable and circular practices and thus address some of our critical societal issues such as climate change mitigation, food security and human health. It is envisioned that India's bioeconomy will reach 24,000 billion rupees by 2030 and will account for 5 to 6% share of India's GDP. So India now has a policy that aims to provide a robust framework to the goal of positioning India on the global stage as a key player in the biotechnology sector. That's all in this special broadcast. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.